Maryleen, welcome, and how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks.
So, guys, Maryleen is UK plus Australian Global Talent Visa recipient. If I have people on the floor, I will say everybody should stand up and clap for you. Right, today on this interview, you guys will have to learn more about the Global Talent Visa and the application process from Maryleen's perspective. You finished from engineering in Nigeria, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
electrical.
I believe 100% that if you did not pick up computer science, you wouldn't have gotten this visa.
Okay, well, on the point around if I would have gotten it with or without computer science, I think that there are also other, it's not tied to just tech. I mean, tech for me, probably maybe if I had picked another field, I could also have been interested in research. So anyone that is really doing research stands a big chance in this
Okay.
visa, both for UK and Australia. So for me, yeah, tech is one of the key. If you go to those countries offering global talent, you always see digital technology sector there. But also there are other fields.
So what other evidence were kind of strong evidence for you on getting this visa? Because we already know that probably 2 or 3 evidence can just give you the visa. So what was your strong evidence?
Yeah. Okay. So when I was applying, first off, because I was coming from a research background, and for the digital technology routes, there was a lot around you. You need to be a founder or an employee or a senior exec. And when I looked at what I was doing at that time, it didn't look like it would fit. I mean, I had bits and pieces of those things, but at that time, based on the work I was doing around research, at the start, I felt out of place. I remember when I was actually looking out for resources, I came across your video, Raymond, where you shared your story. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this is actually doable. And I found just a few of those videos back then that kind of really motivated me because when I compared what they had on the guideline and what people were saying, it just seemed to me that the guideline was looking like it was not me, it was maybe someone else from the galaxy. But eventually I could relate to and start bringing it to myself. So that research part was, for me, I used that around my recommenders. Many of them came from research background. My mandatory criteria as well around my leadership. I also used the work I'd done as a reviewer in journals and conferences. So that also formed part of my evidence. And then I also was able to use just everything around research, part of the criteria because they had, a specific criteria around research and academia related. So again, research, you don't need to be in academia to be a researcher. You can still be in the industry as long as you actually doing very good research. Yeah, so I got an endorsement because for that one you need someone who would endorse your research. So, and that needs to be like a top person, let's say a professor, someone that has really good research profile to endorse your research. So I got that evidence. And that's the only criteria where you could also, if you've got a distinction, maybe your bachelor's and your master's, you could include that as an award. And several other scholarships that I had gotten, PhD scholarships. So I included those as part of my evidence. Even the conferences I had attended, I had spoken at those conferences and published. So that also formed part of. So I would say research I say 50% of my evidence was around research, but also, like I mentioned, volunteering was also a big part of my evidence. The volunteering work that I'd done, with Neuromatch Academy that, trains people around AI, computational neuroscience. So as at that time, I was a senior exec on the organizing team for the conference. So I used that. And I talked about the work I'd done with the charity to produce an AI course book, as well as, the one that I had done with Alan Turing. It was also research oriented to do like a preliminary research around, AI in energy. Yeah, so all of this formed my example. I'm also kind of to put it out there, when I was doing all these things, all this engaging in these activities, I was not even thinking about Global Talent Visa. I didn't even know the Global Talent Visa existed. And that's what I tell people, that whatever you do towards building, just think of it like you're building your career profile when you are preparing for the application, the work you've done in the past 5 years, right? So even if you've been in tech, I'm using the technician visa as an example. Even if you've been in tech for the past 15 years, you can't use the work you did 10 years ago. And I know it could be very annoying and heartbreaking for some person, because you did this wonderful work, or you published that article that got a lot of traction 10 years ago, but you've been asked to stick with the past 5 years of evidence. So
a lot of people are reaching out to you on this visa to help them, to guide them. Now, I want to ask, how do you approach, or what's the advice you give to people that the moment they reach out to you, you discover that they don't have enough evidence for the visa? You can already tell, probably from their messages or the calls that you receive. You already know that they don't have strong evidence for the visa. What do you tell them?
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I remember one of the things that I did when I was applying for I wanted to apply for the visa, was to use some of those eligibility assessment forms. So there are some forms out there online that you can just use, and they will ask you certain questions, and at the end they'll say, okay, you seem to be eligible, or you seem not. I filled one of those forms, and the response I got was I was not eligible. So if I had gone by that, I would probably not be here with you, speaking with you. So and that's one of the things about this application. It is unique, right? It is even when we look at certain things and advice, it's still unique to everyone. Everyone has a unique story, and that's what we try to bring out, that unique story around your career journey, and your impacts in that sector. So one of the things, anyway, just maybe from out of experience and understanding looking at different profiles, what works, why people get rejected. Sometimes you spot someone who is really a good potential. And mind you, this visa has two pathways. It's either you are really like a talent, a leader, or potential leader, which is maybe you're in the early years of your career within the past 5 years, or in that sector, let's say tech, for example. So what we we do is still point out, these are the areas, okay, you're strong in now. These are the areas that you're doing something, but probably hasn't gained traction. Probably you have, a startup idea, but there hasn't been any impact yet or achievement. It's still at the idea phase. So these are the areas you could spend some time and start to work and build up your profile. And that could be just having a plan. Remember, like I said, when we were doing some of these things, we didn't even know there was a global talent visa. So what I tell people is it's a win-win, right? You have a plan that you're going to apply for the global talent visa, and maybe you're going to be ready for it, genuinely ready, not just because you want to apply for a visa, but you really have a passion in that field, and you're really contributing genuinely. And you have that plan that in the next 1 year, these are the areas and gaps to fill to get ready. By the time you get to that point of being ready to apply for the visa, it's a win-win for your career, because everything you're going to be doing, one way or the other, it's going to contribute, to either your visibility, your network, building your network, your career profile. Okay, just imagine a case where you have 2 data scientists, for example. They are both very technically sound, but when you pick up their CV, you see that this one, he has contributed to Stack Overflow, like he's or GitHub. He has this number of repos. He has this number of contributions that he has been contributing to open source projects or spoken at events. Out of the 2, the one that has gone extra mile will have a competitive advantage over the other. So it's a win-win eventually, because the essence of even getting the global talent is that you're going to be even add more to the country that you're coming to that visa with. So either as an employee, as a founder, so they want to see that you can really contribute. You can, make a difference and make an impact. My research was centered around deploying artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms on Internet of Things systems or environments. I've done lots of volunteering, lots of work in the digital technology sector, which I didn't realize at the time, even before I applied for the visa. But I saw some of those work I've done, working maybe with the charity to create, resources for young people, like a course book for them to develop interest in research, develop interest in university. So I did some of those. I also was a facilitator for Alan Turing Data Study Group to work on research and proof of concept around deploying machine learning as well in the energy industry to prevent blackouts. That's like what they call cascading failure, or in Niger term, like power NEPA failure, but much more than that. So so those were the kind of things I did outside on the volunteering side. I also was involved with we'll call it a non-profit that trained people. We trained over 10,000 students globally.
Well, I just want to use this opportunity to encourage anyone that is watching the video, because you talked about volunteering and charity work that you did. I normally tell people, if you are looking at something like this, the moment you get into the country, you should consider volunteering and charity, because it helps a lot. People just take it for granted. But I did it as well, and you're just confirming that you did it as well. So it's not all about pushing for the money, getting the money, working for money. Something like this is really going to help you, because it's going to push your profile and give you that advantage if you are applying for this kind of visa.